I'm going to make this quite a short one because, frankly, universities just sort of come to an end, and people are moving away, and I've been trying to spend time with these people before they disappear. And in the next coming months, I'll have plenty of time to work on this and move it beyond the prototyping stage. So that's exciting. But what I've mainly been working on is a complete refactoring of the original camera sort of code. So that was one of the first things I'd originally prototyped back when I was had the idea of this game, and it was originally just a one planet model. It had a camera that was fixed to the center point of the planet, and the camera was just designed to be flexible to rotate around a single planet. And now that I wanted to move away from just having a single planet that you can have ships on and move them around that one planet, we need to have an entire solar system with ships at the correct planet, and in the future the ability to actually move the ships from planet to planet. But to get to that end goal, what I've actually implemented is a full solar system model. This is actually based on the Sol system, our own system, and each of these icons in the top left corner represents a planet. And what you can actually do is just click on it, and currently the camera is just hopping over to the planet location. I'm not shifting the planet origin to the world center. I actually don't think I'm going to need to do that, although I'm going to need to keep an eye on it. If you don't know, generally with game engines, you tend to try to keep all your game objects as close to the world origin, the 000 origin point, and you usually achieve this with some sort of floating origin where you actually move all the objects in the game world instead of the camera. So the camera's fixed. At the moment I got it the other way around, so the camera's moving to the planets, and I believe through a bit of trickery I should be able to keep that system. I don't think I'm going to need to worry too much about floating origin, and you can see you can put ships down on the all the different planets, and it'll display the actual ships at the correct planet that I placed them on. Obviously this is just for debug purposes. You'd normally start with a fleet and they would be at a particular planet and you would tell them to move to another planet. At the moment I'm just spawning them, and they can only move around their current planet. They can't move from planet to planet yet. But I had to develop a new camera system to make it so that you could very easily just sort of flick between ships and planets that are all over the place. Ultimately it's about 16 free look cameras, sort of split into 4 separate rigs, 2 of which deal with the world cameras, which is the camera that we're currently using, and 2 deal with the ship cameras, which there's a whole set of cameras for each individual rig. And we're just sort of there's a pointer essentially to each camera rig, and we're just using the other one as we switch, so you get all the transitions, and we should be able to control each of the blending sort of transitions from camera to camera. So there's still sort of some things I want to add on to it as I expand this solar system model. For example, you can see from world to world I'm currently doing just a transitional blend rather than a cut. And sometimes you can see the other planets sort of zoom by because the camera is just moving from point to point in world space. So I may not be doing that. I think it doesn't look particularly tidy, so that probably needs to be adjusted. But I quite like how the cameras are currently working with each other, including in orbit. They're a lot better at getting from ship to ship without going through the world. I've also got the destroyer model in a very early form implemented in the game. So this is the model I think I showed last week. This also has a normal map added to it as well, which is where you get these etchings on the actual metallic surface, but unfortunately it doesn't look very tidy. It's actually the first normal map I've ever really put together in Blender, and clearly it's come out a lot more detailed than I expected. I didn't realize I'd need to make the sculpt work quite so intricate. So back to the drawing board, I'll have to sort of revisit that. But I think it gives a good impression of what I'm going for. So consider that an early version of the Destroyer. And haven't added any lights yet, but you can move it. It's got the same ion engine. And this does actually have a baked texture over the top of it as well, so it's got metallic sections and it's got non-metallic sections. I think it looks fairly nice. The you see here a shadow of one of the other worlds. That's not supposed to do that, because I've got the other planets quite close to one another at the moment. So we got a little sort of engine effect on the back as well. The turrets are actually going to sit in this sort of slotted section here, because there's the front weapon as well. And so the turrets are actually going to be able to rotate on the top of the deck, so to speak. And so I'll be doing some sort of targeting system where I try seeing what it's like using weapons on stationary targets. That'll be my first sort of prototyping of the combat system. I'm also really keen to get onto actually interacting with the planet's surface. So so that these resources that you can actually mine, instead of me just popping them into the inventory like I am currently. I know that's still working. I actually want to sort of just prototype having things down on the planets, buildings, and actually over time producing these resources and then bringing them up to orbit to the ships. So that's really where I'm at, and I estimate over the next 2 months we should have everything prototyped. So basic combat, basic resource generation, ground-based stuff. I should have much more work done on the planet shaders. For example, Earth is in a very preliminary stage. I'm just sort of using the ground shader to simulate the atmospheric sort of edge of the planet at the moment. What I want to do is add an entire separate sphere layer, which is just a little bit bigger than the ground layer, and that will be the rotating cloud layer. I'm going to use that probably on the gaseous planets as well, just to give it more animation, because the ground doesn't really move. You don't really need any bump mapping or any further work with the texture on the ground. I think the sort of the look and feel of the planet is going to come from the actual atmospheric layer, and so you won't actually see this atmosphere effect being applied to the ground. It'll be applied to the cloud layer, so it will be further away from the actual planet line, and you'll see actual clouds sort of moving over as well. Eventually they'll be procedural, and in fact the actual ground and vegetation regions will all be procedural as well, but that's much further down the line. For now I'm just going to deal with textures. So making planets look super pretty or at least more dynamic is much further down the road. For now I'll just be sticking with using textures, but they look pretty good, and I'm still happy with how things are going, and I'm really keen to get back to full-time development on it. And revisiting the camera system was something I always needed to do, and the next step in that system will be moving a ship away from a planet. So say I've got this click now, what I'll be able to do is just hop over to another planet, click the location, and the ship should be able to go there through sort of traveling through the space medium from planet to planet. And so there'll be some sort of particle effect around the ship, which sort of obscures the view as it sort of moves from planet to planet, and it's actually not going to necessarily go fast, but just appear to go very fast. And then you'll see sort of like a smaller sphere, which is your destination, sort of start to grow, a very low poly model, which will be replaced with the larger poly model. So that will simulate a sense of size without having to use a massive world area. in order to avoid any issues with floating point precision. So again, I'm very excited about it. I'm looking forward to getting more work done on it, and I appreciate it's still, well, it's been in prototyping stage for 3 months now, I think it is. I've got whole reams of paper where I've been designing all the systems, and I'm happy that I've got to where I have, but I really want to see it progress further. And so yeah, looking forward to that, and thanks for watching.